Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Dr. Jamil, distinguished speakers, moderators, workers, and participants, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Jamil and the organizing committee to invite me to be a moderator in this session. Alhamdulillah, we have participated in a two-day online regional workshop on the development of sustainable private Islamic education institutions. The workshop started with the keynote speech presented by Pencil Zhu on creating a world-class Islamic university in the Muslim countries or communities, setting the vision and mission of developing an Islamic educational institution. It also set the scene for the discussion to be followed. Then we have covered the management of finance and human resources, curriculum transformation with special reference to IOK. We also covered online learning, student development, and strategic planning and challenges management, or sometimes we call risk management. Alhamdulillah, we have covered almost all the key areas of running an educational institution. We must thank the organizing committee for the well-thought program, as well as inviting all the well-learned and experienced speakers. We have come to the closing session. Before I invite Professor Dr. Omar KASULE to present his closing speech, let me just give a few very brief introduction of him. Actually, he need no introduction. He is the professor at the King Fahd Medical City, also the member of Scientific Advisory Board at the Ministry of Health, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Of course, he's also the Secretary General of IIIT, based in USA. So without, may we invite Professor KASULE to present his closing speech on challenges of Islamizing economics and finance. Professor KASULE, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. Brothers and sisters, it's a great pleasure to be with you this afternoon here and this evening over there. I'm very happy to have followed the proceedings of this meeting, conference. Alhamdulillah, it's a very important one and many important things have been mentioned. Things that are of importance conceptually, theoretical, but also practical. Many of us in education institutions have taken away practical things that we can go and use immediately. I will be closing this by leaving a message with you about the issues of Islamizing economics and tying it to private Islamic educational institutions. Now, these institutions, is my PowerPoint scene clear?
Yes, clear.
Okay. Private institutions cannot be sustained by tuition alone. See, they need a waqf. They need assets that are invested and that can pay for the capital and operational expenses. So private education means waqf. They have to go together. If you don't put them together, it becomes very difficult. Now, in this context, there are two challenges that I want to talk about. The first one is to revive the Waqf institution. Our Ummah from the beginning was sustained by Waqf. Mosques, schools, all over the Muslim world, there were a lot of Waqf institutions that sustained education, mosques, and other cultural activities. One of the first things that colonial rulers did when they took over our countries was to destroy the Waqf institutions. At the moment, these institutions are very weak. They survive marginally in some countries. Alhamdulillah, we still have them, but they were not as strong as they were before. If they were as strong as they were before, I would have more private education institutions funded even in a better way than they are now. So that's one challenge. How do we revitalize the Waqf institution? The second challenge is once we have got the Waqf, how do we invest the assets and do the investment according to the Sharia? I think I will spend more time on the second challenge, and I will develop from there to the need to integrate knowledge in the area of economics and finance. As I said, it is easier to overcome the challenge of the Waqf because every Muslim who has got some property wants to send some of it ahead. Remember, what you eat and what you give to your inheritors, you live here on earth. But what you give in sadaqah jariyah, in the form of waqf, you are sending it ahead. You will find it after your death. So many Muslims actually want to do this. And since they can give up to 1/3 of their wealth in a waqf institution, imagine 1.5 billion Muslims. Let us take off the children and those very old and not those working. Let us say 500 million. If 1/3 of them leave 1/3 of their wealth to Waqf, that's a lot of wealth left behind. And many of them want to do it. The reason they do not do it is that issue of credibility. We need to set up institutions that they trust. As soon as we have got the trust, our trust institutions will be filled with donations by Muslims in a lot of money, a lot of assets. So that area, alhamdulillah, is there. But this second thing, after you get these assets in the Waqf, how do you invest them according to the Sharia? This is where we need to talk about Islamic economics and investment. And we need to talk about this concept and the theory of Islamic economics. Now, talking about Islamic economics and investment, you are talking about integration of knowledge in the field of economics. Now, I want to say from the beginning that we have a long way to go in this area. The theoretical aspects of Islamic economics and finance still need a lot of work. And the emphasis of my talk today is that we put work into that area, because each success means the success of investments, means the success of our institutions that rely on Waqf assets. Now, in order to situate this very well, I want to go back in history and talk as a simple person who is not an economist. My understanding of the history of human economics is that the first humans had a very simple economic systems. Adam, for example, was self-sufficient. He produced all the goods and services he needed. When he got Hawa, the two of them became a self-sufficient couple. They produced all what they needed. They had nobody else to deal with. When they had the children and the family expanded, they had a self-sufficient family. It means they didn't buy anything, they did not sell anything. All the goods and services they needed were produced inside the family. But as the family grew, as the human family grew, division of labor became necessary because one person couldn't produce everything he needs. So people specialized in producing some things and others producing other things. Now, the division of labor gave rise to the need to exchange services and goods. You produce what others don't have, you give them. They also give you what they produce. At the beginning, it was very easy. You just exchange. If I am a farmer, have got a sack of rice, I give you the sack of rice and give me a goat. It's barter trade. That's very simple. But soon they discovered that this was not very efficient, because I may be a farmer, I have my bag of rice ready today, but I need a goat for udhiyah, which is 3 months away. I don't want to get that goat too early. I want to get it at that time. So I think money arose as a way of storing value. I will sell my bag of rice, keep the money, and when Eid al-Adha comes, I use that money to get the goat. It's still the same exchange. But what happens is that money arose as a medium of exchange to store value in the human economy. And I think human history continued like this for many, many centuries. Now, money was used in various forms and for many centuries. The problem which we are dealing with today arose when money was commoditized, when money itself became a commodity. At the beginning, it was a means of exchange. But when it became itself a commodity, then we started getting into interest, because it could be bought, sold, or lent. And that was when interest started. Then people discovered that you could earn money by lending money and getting interest. So then another development arose, that somebody could get money without producing goods or services. If I have got 1,000 ringgit, I lend it and I get interest of 20 ringgit. That 20 ringgit, I'm getting it just because I have money. I didn't work, I did not produce any goods, I did not produce any services. So that's the riba economy. And also some other complication arose because the value of the money didn't stay constant. I mean, the purchasing power didn't stay constant. So you have got inflation and deflation. So this is a simple non-expert view of how we came to have this riba economy. And as we talk about Islamic economics, we are thinking how to get rid of this. But then the state soon realized the importance of money quite early. So it monopolized the issue of money or currency. At the beginning, people used anything they picked up as currency, but the state monopolized that, and it was able to control economic activity by controlling the value and supply of money. It also started controlling the economic system by taxation, collects money and gives back the money when it pays for various government services. Then the banking system developed to manage this monetized economy, and the control didn't stay with the state. It extended to international players, international banks and systems that control the economy today. So that's where we are. Now, if we have got our private education institution and we've got Waqf, how are we going to invest the assets in that Waqf in a non-riba economy? Because as you have seen, we ended up with this interest-bearing economy. Muslims, following the dictates of the Quran, they want to live in a non-riba economy. Okay, so they would like their assets to be invested in a system that doesn't have interest. But then what do? We've got the modern economy, it's full of riba. Can we roll it back and go back to the point in history when riba was introduced? This is why I gave you the history, that really we need to go back at that primordial point when riba was introduced and develop an economic model that will not have riba in it. This is a big change. Can we do it in a revolutionary way? Just overnight change? It's difficult to do that unless you have got a non-riba system to replace it. Can we achieve this by evolution? I mean, slowly changing the riba into the non-riba system. It seems to me That's what we are doing at the moment. But our problem, and this leads to the integration of knowledge or Islamization of knowledge, that we are doing it without a sufficient conceptual and theoretical framework. We are grafting fiqh al-mu'amalat on the existing system without really developing a new system. And that is the challenge that we are facing. So we need to develop the theoretical basis for Islamic economics. There are many ways to do this, whether we do it in the revolutionary way or the evolutionary way. We need to ask serious questions. What is the Islamic economic system? Or do we have an Islamic economic system, or we just have fiqh al-mu'amalat? My feeling is a lot of what we do is fiqh al-mu'amalat, but we should go beyond fiqh al-mu'amalat to really having a real theoretical model in which we elucidate the paradigms and concepts of Islamic economics. And I feel that the jump from Islamic economics to Islamic banking was very quick and sudden, because Islamic banking, Islamic finance are now well developed. They're operating very well. But the theoretical basis for them in Islamic economics still requires a lot of development. So how do we develop this model? We need to integrate aql and naql. Knowledge in Islam has to integrate al-aql, which is human intellect, human experience, human experimentation, with naql, which is transmission from Quran and Sunnah. So the issue is, how do we integrate the two? Part of the economic model will be directly from Quran and Sunnah, but part of it will be from human experience. So this is the integration. And I think the main task that is facing us in economics is this integration of knowledge in this area. And I feel that the theory of Islamic economics has received less attention from researchers than the pragmatic approaches of Islamic banking and finance. There's more research about banking and finance than about the basics. So I want to end by saying that as private Islamic universities, really, we need to contribute to this process by increasing the teaching of the non-riba economics. Because the Islamic economics as a discipline will develop if it is taught. It's the big thing. If you teach, things grow. You look at the madhahib, the fiqh schools. Actually, many of us think that there are 4 Sunni schools and 1 Shia school. But actually, there were many schools. The reason why only 4 of them survive is that those who started the 4 were teachers. Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i, Ahmad bin Hanbal, and Anas bin Malik, they were teachers. Because they taught many students, their school survived. There were others who had equally powerful schools, but they did not survive because they were not teachers. And then with the teaching, we need to do research. Of course, we teach undergraduate students, they do their masters, they do their PhD, they do research. As they do research, the theory and the ideas grow. Now, you may say, what shall we teach them? We teach them the knowledge that's available today. It may not be all the knowledge. There are many deficiencies, there are many gaps, but we teach them what is available today. But as they become researchers, they will publish their research and add to the corpus of knowledge. And then the knowledge and theory will grow, inshallah, until we have got a full Islamic economics model. Then when we jump from that model to investments, inshallah, we shall be more successful. And again, as we teach, students ask questions. So those questions will reveal the gaps in our knowledge that require more research. So we need more masters, more PhDs in Islamic economics, inshallah, because that will contribute to the growth of the concepts and theory of this. And when the concepts and theories are well developed, then the investment part will be more successful, and we inshallah can end up with a very powerful Muslim economy. I believe Islam is coming back. When Islam comes back, it will have a very powerful economy, but a big portion of that economy, I would rather guess to say about 1/3 of that economy will be based on the Waqf institution. And as we said, the Waqf institution supports our private institutions. Lastly, I want to talk about economics textbooks. We need textbooks on Islamic economics. At the moment, we don't have enough books. And I think it's an immediate goal that books be written. I have had a long experience in this area. In 1987, in Washington, when I was the executive director of IIIT, there was a PhD we recruited, newly graduated from the University of New Hampshire, to prepare a book on Islamic economics. The project did not proceed a lot. Why? Because there were no enough relevant reference materials. But over the years, many attempts have been made. I myself have provided money and support and projects to have economics books written, but we have been facing many challenges. So to the extent that we have got a scholarship program, when somebody applies for a scholarship to go and do Islamic banking and Islamic finance, I say no. I tell them, if you want to get my scholarship, go and do Islamic economics, because there is the theory, the paradigms that require to be developed further before we can succeed in the practical areas of investment and banking and finance and insurance. So I thank you very much for listening to me. And I want to thank the brothers who organized this, Prof. Dato, Jamil, Prof. Fauzan, Prof. Aslam, and Brother Shahran, all the people in our group, and the all people have spoken, moderators, Brother YUSUFCWYU, Professor Torla was one of the speakers, Professor Ali Zaman. I cannot mention all the names. We have also our Sheikh Habib Khirzin attending and supporting. I want to thank all of you for the contributions you have made to the success of this gathering. It has succeeded in two ways. One way is to focus on the issue of private institutions and their funding using the Waqf. And as I told you, I think this is the future of our educational work. The second success that I congratulate you on is that you've been able to hold a conference online. Yeah, this is a virtual conference and it has proceeded very well. And I also feel, I agree with Prof. Fauzan that, and Prof. Torla, this is going to be the future. We are going to do more and more things online, and maybe in the new normal, we'll not go back to the old way in which we are doing things. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yusuf, unmute. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Unmute, please. Brother Yusuf, unmute. Yusuf, unmute yourself.
Thank you, Professor KASULE. We said that money is oxygen, and the workshop started with the discussion of finance management and end up with the presentation of Professor KASULE's calling on us to further develop the Islamic economy. and with providing with appropriate textbook for this field. So may I open the floor for comment and questions?
Prof. Omar, I receive a lot of requests that they want to do it every year, annual event.
Inshallah, inshallah, inshallah.
It means it is very
And do it
successful.
monthly also, because it's so convenient to do things online. So we can do more, inshallah.
Professor, we have more than 400 participants in this workshop. How can I imagine the workload for organizing a physical conference of over 400 people with the logistic and everything? Don't mention about money, just how many manpower you have to mobilize for fetching them from the airport, for the arrangement of hotel, etc. Not about food and so on, right? Alhamdulillah, it is so easy. And in 2 days' time, it was so successful and so fruitful. So any question or comments?
We have about 10 minutes. Maybe Prof. Omar can entertain to some questions.
Any question you may like to raise?
Yeah, Prof. Saya, can you?
Professor Saya?
Yeah, unmute? Yes.
Please unmute your mic.
Unmute, Prof. Saya.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's a very, very useful workshop. And also the last closing remark by Professor Omar, very interesting. Besides on economics, where Waqf could play an important role to invest in the Islamic economy. I just like to ask Professor Omar, at present, there are activities of investment which is in conformation with Sharia. Is it possible for the private sectors develop such investments units and then invest in these activities, economic activities, which is free from riba, or rather in conformation with Sharia? Just ask this simple question.
Professor.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. Actually, this should be asked to Professor Aslam, the economist, because me, I'm not an economist, but I am a thinker in integration of knowledge. And what I know is that we need to do more work on Islamic economics as a theory, as paradigms, in order to guide the investments. At the moment, the institutions that are working, they are working very well, very successfully, but it is pragmatic. So a lot of it is trial and error. But some of it is based on fiqh al-mu'amalat. Very well, they follow the fiqh al-mu'amalat. But what I want to say is that Islamic economics has to be wider than fiqh al-mu'amalat. And that's where we need more research and more teaching to develop the model so that it's a full model. Prof. Aslam, I think, should answer that question.
Professor Aslam, are you here? Are you here? Can you?
Anyway, thank you very much, Professor Omar. At least you give a direction to what we need to go into deeper or wider Islamic economy perspective in that sense. Yes, thank you anyway. Thank you very much.
There was a comment on the chat box that one Brother Ali said, can we do one focused on the education of Muslim rewards? Maybe this is for the follow-up of the working committee.
Yeah.
Any other comment?
Well, I don't have a simple answer to that, because the assumption is that those who were born Muslims know, and the reverts need to be educated. Sometimes the opposite. The reverts first study Islam before they accept it. So all of us need education. There is a concept of al-ma'lum min ad-din bil-darura, basic necessary knowledge for a Muslim to have. If you make a survey in our ummah, you will be surprised. A lot of fundamentals are not known by many people. So the need for education covers everybody, reverts and born Muslims. We need to get more education.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Shukri, can you unmute your mic, please?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam.
Greeting from Patani, Sheikh.
Alhamdulillah.
Allah, we miss you. We miss you in the air. Anyway, congratulations for the regional office led by Prof. Fauzan and Dato as advisor. I think one thing I would like to share here with Prof. Omar KASULE is that it was so difficult to get Prof. KASULE to every single country in the past. But now we got him online, and I think if possible, would like to propose to Prof. Fauzan and also Dato himself, the issues discussed in this 2 days conference should be very well equipped with small interests of each country if possible in the future. For example, Hong Kong of Brother Yusuf, Thailand of Brother Ibrahim and myself, those who are working on IIIT's issues pertaining our political, economical concerns of each country in the future. If we can do country by country, and having Dato himself, Prof. Fauzan, and also Prof. KASULE to come down with specific issues of each country in the future, inshallah. And if possible, maybe we can come up also with writing of the issues of that country as well. Thank you very much. Anyway, we enjoyed the whole 2 days program of IIIT this time. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Brother Yusuf, we have Brother Ibrahim Abdullaif from Russia. You want him to say something? Brother Ibrahim Abdullaif?
Yeah, Ibrahim.
Yes.
He's the principal of Islamic college over there.
From Russia?
From Dagestan.
Dagestan, yes. Our IUM alumni,
Yes, Brother Ibrahim.
Please unmute your mic.
Yeah, maybe it's not.
Yes,
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, Brother
Yes, Ibrahim.
Very much enjoyed the 2 days program, even though it was 4 a.m. in the morning here in Russia. But it was just right after the Subuh prayer, and Alhamdulillah, those who wake up early, they have the barakah, and it was really enjoyable getting all the knowledge and experience from experts who had their hands-on experience. Alhamdulillah, hopefully there will be continuation and follow-up. And as Dato Jamil said, there will be a resolution also after this.
Yes.
And Alhamdulillah, we feel very blessed that even though in minority countries, Muslims living in minority countries, we still can learn from our brothers. And through this IIIT initiatives, alhamdulillah, we hope in the future there will be more such webinars and such programs, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Ibrahim.
Yeah, Brother Yusuf, there are a few items in the chat that maybe I could address briefly.
Please.
Before we close. Okay, someone was asking, how can a small Islamic school, a young Islamic school, begin its investment for sustainable development? Well, I want to say this is a question that economists can answer. Me, I'm a professor of medicine, but I'm interested in integration of knowledge. So I talked about these investments from that perspective that we need to do, develop Islamic economics more, so more qualified people can answer that. There is another point, how can Waqf be effectively work when we know that there are integrity issues in many Muslim countries? You know, corruption is rampant in many of our countries. How can the system work? Well, it's a challenge, but I also noticed something. There are some countries that I know are very corrupt in everything except Waqf. Somehow, when it's religious, people tend to respect the Waqf. There could be a few problems, but I think the integrity issues will not affect the Waqf system. Then there was a question, if you have got Waqf assets, do you keep them in the bank? Do you invest them in the normal bank? So that's the challenge. We need to have the Islamic alternative well developed. At the moment, we have got Islamic alternatives, but as I said, we need to develop them more by having the theoretical work well done. So people don't have to take Waqf assets to riba banks. Many of us, under necessity, we deal with the riba system. And the sooner we can have effective replacements, inshallah, we can get out of all of those systems. Jazakumullah khair.
Thank you, Professor. We have received a lot of compliment remarks from different brothers and sisters. So, and maybe we still have 2 minutes. Can we allow the last question? If not, then maybe I pass the mic to Datuk. Wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.